So we're going to start recording videos, blogging a little bit about what's going on in Taekwondo in our world and things we like, things we don't like. So this is the first one, so it'll be a little bit kind of fun and weird and different for us. So anyway, we kind of thought we'd start with the first coaching conference and sort of review what happened and what went on there, because it was a really cool event and it seems like it's worth documenting and talking about. So why not? Anyway, so the first coaching conference was down in the University of Limerick this year in UL. It's a really cool campus, and it was June the 28th, 29th and 30th. So that was the campus was kind of empty because of that, right? This college were finished, but it was really cool, and it was different to any kind of international Taekwondo event I've gone to, be it IICs or whatever. This one was different. This one was cool. So you had Grandmaster Boss, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Byrne organising, kind of spearheading that sort of initiative, and that was really, really good. The team are really, really dedicated to Taekwondo. You don't need to talk to me to know that. You see it in the work they do. It's brilliant. So it was a cool event. It was a 3-day event, and it's like some of the best coaches and some of the most kind of important figures in Taekwondo were there. President of the ITF, Grandmaster Weiler was there. Top officials from the umpire committee. Really just a good around thing. So I'm kind of going to summarise what the layout was for the weekend and sort of talk about some of the stuff that I liked. So when we got there, the first kind of day after registration all was done, we got there and there was introductions and hellos and that was kind of cool. We got to meet all the coaches, meet all the people, opening addresses and stuff like that. And I have my big notebook of stuff that I took down. And it was split into keynotes and workshops, right? So keynotes were given in the kind of lecture hall in UL, which was this kind of windowless prison, but it was really, really cool. It wasn't cool, it was roasting. The weather for the whole weekend was gorgeous. It was really hot, which was great when you were outside, but pretty hot inside, especially during some of the workshops and lectures. But whatever, that doesn't really matter. The first keynote was Hayley Harrison on developing a coaching system. It was really good. It set the precedent for kind of how coaching is done nationally and internationally, and not so much about how to coach, but how to build a system around training coaches, so that in the long tail you can go from club level coach all the way up to international coach and coach trainers, and it's one of those things. It's like who trains the trainers, who moves the first mover, that sort of stuff, right? And it was really interesting. I saw an awful lot of them, maybe because it was an Irish presenter, but a lot of what the ITA in Ireland is doing is quite good. We have our introduction to coaching, we have the level 1, and the level 2 is coming on, and we require all of the sort of, the guard vetting and first aid, all of these other sort of things that are really setting a good standard. There's the coaching standards in Taekwondo in Ireland are really, really high, and a lot of what she was saying really kind of reinforced what the ITA is doing, and it asked a big question of the ITF, is like, why don't we have a distributed, highly visible coaching system, which was kind of cool, and food for thought, right? The second keynote was Drew Harrison on the biomechanics for special technique, and this was really, really interesting. So when we kind of break down special technique as a jumping or flying system, right? And it was really cool to see some of the crossover and the relationship between kind of historical jumping, high jump technique, and their applications in modern ITF spec tech, right? Specifically around flying sidekick and these kind of techniques. It covered an awful lot of kind of stuff that I was not so aware of. Things like pre-tension in the muscle for speed and takeoff, and and that whole idea of, if I move my finger really fast as I can, it's fast, but with the pre-tension where I push into the thumb and then let go, this whole pre-tension thing was really, really cool and elaborated a lot. The stretch shortening cycle was another thing he talked about. Short contact time on the floor, these kind of really, really detailed sort of stuff, and I'll dig through my notes properly and do a video again on it if people want to know more. We had the first workshop after that. It was on plyometrics workshop, and it was a bit was a bit unfortunate because it was supposed to run in side by side with another workshop, and that other workshop was cancelled due to availability of instructors or whatever. But so the whole conference was at the plyometrics room, which was a little bit. The group was probably too big for the exercise, and it wasn't really a how to plyometric for Taekwondo. It was more like think about plyometrics in these sort of situations. Now, don't get me wrong, there was loads of cool information contained in it, you know, and again, I can go through some of that later on. I'm just kind of glancing at my notes here, you know, progressive loading for injury prevention. You know, again, this short contact time, fast contact time, sub contact under 250 millis, and you know, slow contact is anything fast. But really, the hammer home for plyometrics was, you know, progressive loading, and you know, less is more, and loading is really important. You know, there's no quicker way to injure yourself than to do plyometrics wrong. This is sort of one of the take homes from that. But there was parts of it that were really good, especially the short contact cycle. I mean, that's stuff that I've seen even coaching myself now, doing spec tech classes, and you know, using that as a verbal cue, just short, touch, bounce, push, this kind of stuff. And I'm seeing improvements already in my students' work, which is cool. You know? Sparring seminar was the next, sparring workshop was the next port of call for me. That was Master Cooley, Master Tricoi, and Master Barada, and you know, it's a who's who of sparring, right? There's only a few other names missing from that. It was a really, really good seminar, right? And it was three very unique coaches' styles brought across. You know, Master Cooley laid down this foundation, and it was really, really good, you know, about the whole canvas and how you build them up, and it's movement patterns first, and you put people in the right position, and drill this into your fighters from a young age, and you have this sort of, yeah, really, really important stuff about, you know, just how important the fundamental patterns of movement are if you want to be able to go on and do the more complicated things and create, you know, sparring fighters that can really move and really play the game successfully and enjoy it. And it was just a really, really good session. Master Chakri came after that, and he was very much here's drills, you can use this, here's how to drill, you know, a lot of things on, you know, back fist, or 1-2 to dolly, or 1-2 moving. It's all about, you know, in and out, and it kind of had a point sparring flavour to it, but it was really cool, you know. Then Master Barada came out, and he was, you know, he's so experienced, and you can see it, and it comes across in the way he teaches, and he really hammered home this point of distance and moving your body, and you know, again, I have little videos on that and that I can push later on, but you know, again, reinforcing the basic movement patterns. Don't cross your legs, you have to move the body, you can't be, you know, it's about distance. If you control the distance, you know, you're sort of set, you know. And that was really good. Hot session, but good fun. And then rounding off day one for me was prearranged sparring, and this, when I saw this on the agenda, I was like, yeah, I have to do this, right? Partly because the ITA has made prearranged sparring compulsory for 4th dan and above, which is what I want to test for at Christmas, so that was sort of said, right, I can get the leg up on that. But also because it was run by Grandmaster Boss and Miss Sylvia Farigu, and when I saw those two instructors, like, yeah, okay, I definitely have to do it. If you've ever trained with Grandmaster Boss, you know, it's the business training with him. And same, I've been so, you know, you watch Sylvia Farigu, and you just know she's just such a good exponent of Taekwondo, you know, and the chance to learn off that is had to be taken. So, I mean, it was a nice way to break down prearranged sparring that's not maybe covered as much. So it was kind of like take your 3-step or take your 2-step or take your 1-step and then build on that. So, and it was creative ways to add techniques to a prearranged routine that you know, encourage you to think outside the box. So it was, you know, start with 3 techniques. It'll be 1, 2, 3. It'll be front kick, knife hand, whatever it was. In fact, it was knife hand, apchagi, downward knife hand. I can see it here. And after that was worked out, you would add a jump. And after that was worked out, you'd add a slow motion and fast motion. And you just extend it, you know. So I was working with Mr. Darren Rigney, which was great fun, good friend of mine, and we worked out a nice routine. And yeah, it was kind of made into a competition, and we won that, and that was kind of nice because it was my birthday. So I was happy with that. Yeah, it's only local and it's only fun, but nice to have Grandmaster Boss and the winners are Ireland, you know. Anyway, that was the end of day one.